History isn't just dates and dusty pages. It's power, ambition, and choices that changed everything. Today, we step back in time as we talk about something massive: how World War I changed the world. This wasn't just the end of a war, it was the spark that reshaped the entire 20th century. Hit that like button if you're excited, and subscribe for more deep dives. Let's jump in.
Welcome to Unveiled History.
In the decades preceding World War I, the world was not merely turning, it was charged with tension. 6 major empires dominated the globe: Britain, France, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Russia, and the Ottoman Empire. Each vied for power, with Britain ruling vast territories, France expanding in Africa and Asia, and Germany aggressively pursuing colonial ambitions. Meanwhile, Austria, Hungary, and Russia faced internal ethnic tensions, and the Ottoman Empire declined. But power invites envy, and envy invites conflict. European powers intensified rivalries in the scramble for Africa, fueling nationalism and militarism. Complex alliances, like the Triple Alliance and Triple Entente, bound nations together, setting the stage for disaster. The spark came in 1914, when Archduke Franz Ferdinand's assassination in Sarajevo shattered the fragile balance, plunging the world into global conflict. In the chaos that followed Sarajevo, the old order cracked, and by the war's end, change came. The political map of Europe and the Middle East was almost unrecognizable. World War I between 1914 to 1918 shattered 3 great empires: the German, Austro-Hungarian, and Ottoman, reshaping Europe and the Middle East. Germany, crippled by the British blockade, battlefield losses, and US entry in 1917, saw Kaiser Wilhelm II abdicate before accepting the punitive Treaty of Versailles, birthing the fragile Weimar Republic. And not only that, the Austro-Hungarian Empire collapsed under nationalist uprisings and defeats, replaced by Austria, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia. The Ottoman Empire, weakened by Gallipoli, the Arab Revolt, and Allied advances, faced partition under the Treaty of Sèvres. Defiance led by Mustafa Kemal Ataturk birthed modern Turkey in 1923, marking the Ottoman Empire's final fall. But here's a fact: the end of World War I didn't just bury empires, it gave birth to nations. In the ruins of Europe, Woodrow Wilson's call for self-determination reshaped the map. Poland, absent for over a century, re-emerged in 1919 with access to the Baltic via the Polish Corridor, soon defending its borders in the Polish-Soviet War under Józef Piłsudski. Czechoslovakia carved. From Austro-Hungarian lands and led by Tomáš Masaryk, united Czechs and Slovaks, but inherited German and Hungarian minorities whose grievances would later be exploited by Nazi Germany. Yugoslavia brought together Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes in a fragile, rivalry-plagued union. In the northeast, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Finland rose from the Russian Empire's collapse, wary of encroaching powers. In the Middle East, Ottoman lands fell under British and French mandates, laying seeds of future strife. These new nations embodied sovereignty's promise, yet economic hardship, ethnic divisions, and border disputes left them vulnerable. By 1939, many faced authoritarian rule or foreign conquest, early markers of a turbulent century. Victory came at a heavy cost for Britain and France. Though triumphant, both nations were drained. Britain lost over 750,000 soldiers, France more than 1.4 million. Economically, war debts soared, reconstruction strained resources, and trade dominance began to wane. Britain's empire faced growing anti-colonial movements, while France focused on border security, building the Maginot Line and demanding reparations from Germany. But as one chapter closed, another was opening. Amid Europe's exhaustion, the United States rose stronger. Its booming wartime industries, allied loans, and unscathed homeland propelled it to global prominence. By war's end, America had become a financial and military powerhouse, ready to influence world affairs in the decades ahead. While old empires struggled to rebuild, a new power quietly rose across the Atlantic. World War I reshaped global power, and no nation benefited more than the United States. Initially neutral, America entered the war in 1917 after threats to global stability and submarine attacks. Its fresh troops and vast resources boosted the Allies' fight. And as Europe laid in ruins, American factories hummed, supplying arms and loans. By war's end, the US was the world's leading creditor, with a booming economy and far fewer casualties than Europe. President Wilson's 14 points influenced peace talks, but isolationist sentiment kept the US out of the League of Nations. Still, by the 1920s, America's economic strength, cultural reach, and growing military power made it a dominant force, ready to shape the century ahead. History's course was about to take a sharp turn. In 1917, the vast Russian Empire collapsed in revolution, giving rise to communism. Years of war, food shortages, and economic collapse fueled public anger. In February, Tsar Nicholas II abdicated, ending the Romanov dynasty. A provisional government struggled to maintain order, but by October, Lenin's Bolsheviks seized power, promising peace, land, and bread. They quickly withdrew Russia from World War I through the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, ceding vast lands to Germany. The following civil war devastated Russia as Bolshevik Reds fought white opponents. Despite immense loss, the Bolsheviks prevailed, founding the Soviet Union in 1922. Lenin's vision of a communist state, rooted in class struggle and centralized control, sparked revolutionary fervor worldwide and set the stage for decades of ideological conflict between capitalism and communism. The world would never be the same again. In 1919, the guns fell silent, but the peace that followed would prove fragile. The Treaty of Versailles ended World War I and redrew Europe's map, profoundly altering global politics. Germany lost 13% of its territory, including Alsace-Lorraine to France and the Polish corridor to Poland, and its colonies were turned into League of Nations mandates. Harsh reparations of 132 billion gold marks and military restrictions bred German resentment, seen as humiliation rather than peace. New nations like Poland and Czechoslovakia rose from empire ruins, while Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire collapsed. Though borders were redrawn with self-determination in mind, ethnic tensions and disputes persisted, leaving Europe fractured and vulnerable to future conflict. But it doesn't stop here. The end of World War I didn't just redraw borders. It created countries where none had existed before. Yugoslavia united South Slavs, but struggled with ethnic rivalries, especially Croatian separatism. The 1920 Treaty of Sèvres created Iraq under British mandate, a land marked by Arab, Kurdish, Sunni, and Shiite divisions that fueled instability. Across Europe, Poland, Czechoslovakia, and the Baltic states emerged, embodying self-determination, but burdened by ethnic tensions and disputed borders. Though intended to bring peace, these new borders often ignored realities on the ground. planting the seeds for disputes and conflict that would shape the troubled interwar years. There's more to this. In the Middle East, the end of World War I brought not liberation, but division. In 1916, the secret Sykes-Picot Agreement divided the Ottoman Empire's Arab lands with little regard for ethnic or religious realities. The 1920 Treaty of Sèvres formalized this division. Britain took Iraq and Palestine. France claimed Syria and Lebanon. Diverse groups like Arabs, Kurds, Sunnis, Shiites were forced under foreign rule, deepening divisions. The Arab revolt's promise of independence turned to betrayal, sparking uprisings against colonial control. By 1923, the Treaty of Lausanne recognized Turkey, but the Middle East remained fractured under mandates. These imposed borders and tensions would fuel regional conflicts for generations to come. World War I didn't just redraw maps, it redrew society itself. And for millions of women, the war opened doors that had long been closed. With men at the front, women filled roles in factories, munitions plants, offices, and transport. Over 1 million in Britain alone, keeping economies running. Their vital work strengthened suffrage demands. Britain granted partial voting rights in 1918, full rights by 1928. The US passed the 19th Amendment in 1920. Yet post-war, many women were pushed back into traditional roles. Still, the war challenged gender norms and planted lasting seeds of independence and equality that would continue growing throughout the century. The Great War left more than battlefields and ruins. It shattered the very way people saw the world. And in the rubble, art and literature were reborn. The lost generation, including Hemingway and Fitzgerald, captured post-war disillusionment, portraying a fragile, uncertain world. In art, Dadaism emerged in Zurich as a rebellious protest against the chaos, with Duchamp's provocative works rejecting traditional values. From this chaos grew Surrealism, led by André Breton and inspired by Freud, exploring the subconscious through dreamlike, unsettling imagery. These movements abandoned pre-war optimism, embracing irony and fragmentation. Through their words and art, they voiced the trauma and haunting beauty of a world forever altered by war. A new force emerged from the chaos. World War I combined old rivalries with deadly new technology. In 1916, Britain introduced the tank at the Somme, breaking trench warfare's deadlock. Above, airplanes evolved from scouts to fighters, with daring dogfights between Germany's Fokker and Britain's Sopwith. Medical advances transformed care like effective triage, routine blood transfusions, and improved antiseptics saved lives. Though penicillin was still emerging, research accelerated. The war ushered in a new era of technology, aviation, and medicine. And that's the journey, a weave of moments that shaped history and redefined our world. Every twist, every turn, a reminder that the past still speaks to us today. Until next time, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.